Hello, and welcome to Inspired into Action, where I interview inspiring women who are taking action in their business. Hello, and welcome to Inspired into Action. I'm your host, Tara Omatosho, and today we are talking to Tonya Sloan. How are you doing today, Tonya?
I am great. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Me too. I'm excited for you to tell the listeners about who you are and what it is that you do.
Wow. Well, I love to talk about myself like most other people do.
Right.
So, I actually am a career maximization strategist. And the name of my company is Power Woman Enterprise. And what that means is that I have tools, tips, and strategies that I use to help women maximize their career potential. I meet so many women who are multi-talented, but are in a space where they know they're not living out the fullest potential. And most importantly, they know that they're not at the income level that their skill set was meant to hold. So I help them sort of make the connection.
Okay, all right, that's cool, because a lot of people, like you said, we are multi-talented women out here. We know how to do this and this and this and this, but when it comes to putting those pieces together and really marketing or monetizing off of that, it doesn't happen often. So that's awesome. So tell the listeners a little bit like how this process happens. Do you do training sessions, personal coaching? How does this happen?
So it started off as a combination of my own personal work experience and then my personal employment experience. My background is both as an adjunct professor, an attorney, and as a minister. And so in all those capacities, I found myself counseling people over and over again. And the thing that kept coming up was, what do I do about my career? And I've always been business minded. I mean, Tara, I was one of those persons that was in college wearing a pantsuit to class, but that had just always been me. So I've always learned and studied about advancement in the professional place. And then the personal experience really came in because I myself have had several career challenges where I found myself in a scenario where I was clear I was capable of doing far more than the job I had would allow me to be. So as a result of that, I started to just change the focus of my training at Howard Divinity School, really focusing on leadership principles rooted in faith, and then taking some coaching courses to get me on track. So essentially, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. And back in 2015, I decided it was time for me to formally do it with my own company launch to be more impactful to women, many more women than I had been in the past.
Yeah, that's a good point that you made in regards to, you've always been doing this, and that you just took what you had always have been doing and sort of applying it to what would help other women. Do you just solely work with women, or you work with men as well?
Well, I work with men occasionally, but I have to be honest, the vast majority of my clients are women, specifically because it's something about how women perceive themselves in the marketplace. It is not true of every woman, but there are instances where I myself encounter a lot of women who just don't have the capacity to speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves the way you see some men advocate.
Right, that is correct. I have seen that.
And, quite honestly, because I'm a woman, it's easier for me to relate to women, their emotions, and how emotions play into how we see ourselves in a professional setting. And I just love being a woman. So kind of biased, I have to admit.
I know. I mean, this is called Inspired in Action. It's for women, but just in case there are some men that occasionally will watch, I was just, because sometimes they can have that situation too. And sometimes they're more comfortable speaking with women than they are their male counterparts. So just in case someone had that question.
Yeah, and when it comes to maximization strategies, they really are the same for men and women. They're not really gender based. It's just that the ones who seem to be more inclined to reach out for help to someone like me would be a woman.
That's correct. That is correct. So in regards to becoming a maximizing strategist and the things that you do, what are some challenges that you have faced when you're launching this business or starting this business? What are some challenges that you can speak upon that would help someone else that's coming right behind you to avoid those challenges?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the challenges was really just finding the time to actually do it. Life is busy no matter who you are, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you have kids or not. We always find ourselves involved in so many activities.
Right.
And it's hard sometimes to create the time in order to make a change, and a change as big as launching a business. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, I had the idea, God gave me the idea for the business a few years before I actually started it. And it was specifically because my own career was doing very well at the time. And I actually was going to school full time as well. I was working full time and going to school full time. And so just the idea of adding something else to my agenda, it was a real challenge. But the thing that pushed me is I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I went, people would always ask me, can I pick your brain about this interview that I have coming up? Can you help me figure out how to really strategize for that particular interview? And what I realized is, because I have been talking about the topic of career advancement for so many years in so many different venues, people would just come to me. And so it was like, oh my God, it was a reminder that I had to make the time to really focus in on this business and launch the business in order for me to really be walking in what I believe to be my purpose.
Yeah. That when it continues to come upon your heart, or people ask you about it, then you really get the sense of urgency, like, God, I know I need to really do this. So let me stop and let me put it out there, because there's people that He is calling you to minister to, whether they are believers or not, to help them through this process. And by you not focusing on it or, pushing it to the side, you're not helping anybody, especially yourself, and He's trying to really get you in that arena to start speaking to those people. But if you don't move on it, He'll find somebody else to do it, but
absolutely.
He will find anybody to get his goals accomplished, but he called you to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a constant reminder. It would happen so frequently that I just knew that I had to do it. And let me tell you, once I took one step, it was like the time to take the next step, it was just created for me. My schedule began to open up, and then it got to the point where I just started saying yes to things that weren't aligned with my strengths and what I believed I was called to do. And now it's like, it doesn't even feel like work.
Right.
Because it's so natural for me. It's so rewarding. I do periodic training to keep up on the latest skills in the marketplace, especially for, what employers are looking for and that kind of thing. But it just feels like fun. It really doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. I was going to go into a question. What are some things that you read or you focus on that help you maintain the ability to maximize people in the workplace, or to keep motivated to continue to do what you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what I mainly read and focus on that helps me move forward. But before I do that, I want to say that it's critically important to read books and take courses in whatever your line of business or your employment area is. It's really important to do that. There's always developments in technologies, the way things are done. You want to always be on the cutting edge. So those are critically important, and they are part of how I stay up to speed. But I will tell you, the number one thing that I read and I do, number one thing is my Bible, in combination with prayer. And I try to start every day with quiet time and prayer. Sometimes it may only be a few moments, and there are other mornings where I have 20, 30 minutes to do it. But that has been the greatest tool that has helped me stay on the cutting edge. Just to give you one example, I remember in my own professional life, a couple years ago, not too long ago, I was in a job that I really loved, but it didn't satisfy the breadth of all of my abilities. There were some parts of my skill set that weren't being utilized. Specifically, I knew that I could be a leader in this organization. But it was a very flat organization. There was really no place for me to move. And I didn't really know what to do. I liked the organization, but my potential was not being maximized. And so I was praying one morning, and God told me to apply for this other job that was with the same employer, but it had nothing to do with my current position. It was a leadership position, but completely different. I'm thinking to myself, I don't even want that. But I was obedient and I applied anyway. And Tara, they didn't give me the job. But what happened was they told me, we're not going to give you the job because we don't think that's a good fit for you, but just hold on because we want to create a position for you to lead the office that you currently work in. And I was like, wow. So what it turned out is that in prayer that day, God was giving me a career strategy. He was telling me to apply for a different job just to get me in front of the leadership of my committee, to give them an opportunity to review my background, my skill set, my performance, and what I was capable of doing. And he had them to create a position for me.
Wow, that's awesome. That's exactly how God does it. And also, they probably didn't even know that you were wanting something more. And so you applied, they're like, oh, wow, we thought she was cool. We thought when she was good with what she was doing, but now we know she wants more. So let's like you said, create something more for her.
Absolutely. And from that, what it did was show me that sometimes interviewing for jobs can be a strategy. Not necessarily that you want it, but especially if you, for example, work for Procter & Gamble and you know that you want to stay there long term, but the right position, the position you're in now is not the last place that you want to land. Sometimes interviewing for other jobs just gives you an hour of their time for you to shine and for you to talk about what you really do want to do. And so for me, it's like, I talk to a lot of my other career coach friends about this particular strategy, and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. How did you come up with that? And I'm like, it comes through.
Holy Spirit will download things to you every day. It says daily he loads me with benefits. So that means that if I need to empty out all that he has loaded me with, so he's always going to replenish that, but there's no scarcity. I'm always going to be having those God ideas, those aha moments where it's like, wow, God, thank you. Like I would have never known that had I not trusted you and follow what you told me to do. Because sometimes, he'll tell you things, you're like, I don't know about that. Like, and you don't do it. And then you see how it could have transformed your life or changed someone else's life. And you're like, oh man, I'll do that. I'll make sure I'll do it next time, those type of things. Any more strategies with the listening audience?
Sure. When it comes to wanting to advance your career or wanting to take a step forward professionally, number one, you need to self-promote.
Mhm.
By self-promote, I don't mean be obnoxious and spend all of your time talking about yourself.
Right.
But you want to think about those things that you want people in the marketplace to know about you. And you begin to talk about yourself, about that quality to other people. For example, if I want people to know that I'm highly analytical, I could be in a conversation with some of my coworkers at lunch and just briefly say, you know, man, I mean, I'm such an analytical person. I'm glad I have XYZ project because it gives me an opportunity to really shine in that area. It's a very subtle way of making your coworkers believers that analysis is a strong point that I have. It's etched in their mind. So when people ask about you, one of the first things they'll be able to say is, you know what, Tonya's very analytical.
You're right.
That's a strength of hers.
That's good.
So that's a strategy that can work when you're talking to peers, people in leadership capacity, or even people who work in a position below you. It's just self-promoting in a very subtle but strategic way that is very effective. Number two, it's really helpful if an individual tries to use their personal time to make connections with people who can help them in their professional life. My weekends are not just for, sort of having fun and relaxing. I always look for opportunities to connect with new people in a fun way on the weekends so that it's still part of advancing my career. I went to a birthday party a couple weeks ago of a woman who has a lot of strengths in media. And one of my professional goals is to get more media exposure by getting published and making media appearances. And so at that party, I made 3 really solid connections with people that I've had lunch with or coffee with just to help further my particular goals. So that's another one. Don't just use the weekend strictly for fun, but use them as periods of development.
Yeah.
Number 3, one strategy that the last strategy I think is critically important is that no matter what you do, whether you're an employee or you have your own business, you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
So if you want people to perceive you in a certain way, you have to give them reason. You have to show up in that capacity consistently.
Yes.
If I am someone who connects well with people, I have to make sure that I'm consistent in being open, meeting new people, going to networking events or what have you. Even if if I'm a business owner, you can't say you have a business and you are working and taking clients one week, and then 3 months later, when you're tired of it, you just completely abandon it. Right. When you try and come back to it, people are going to say, you know what, I don't want to do business with that person because they're not consistent.
Yeah, because that's a hobby.
That
was a hobby for them.
Absolutely. And so I think the same applies as well, even if you're an employee. If you're someone who's on time, you want to be known as someone who's on time, be consistent in being on time. But spending 1 week, you're late, you come in whenever, and then the next week, you're on time. People are going to really focus on those times when you weren't timely. So consistency is important in whatever you do.
Yeah, consistency is important. Just being the person who you want to be, and especially like you said, if you want to be known for something good, make sure you're giving out that good. And you don't want to be known as that person that is late or habitually late, because it's like that people don't take you seriously. And then when you really try to, like you said, change your status in your work history or maximize the potential that you have at their employer, that's not going to happen, because they're going to remember you as always being late or not being ready for meetings or not having your stuff together. And people that, like you said, just like the little self-promote, that is also a promotion in a way. If you're always constantly doing the negative things, then you're not going to be put up for the big deals or the big, accounts or whatever job or whatever business that you're in. You're not going to be considered for more if you're constantly inconsistent in your behavior or in your work. That's really
Yeah. All of it really leads to the fact that it's best to really look for a career or a business that is aligned with your personal interests, your purpose, and the like. Because if you're in a scenario where you are working a job just because you get the paycheck and you can't stand what you do, you're going to always be looking for reasons to distance yourself from that employment activity. You're not going to be inspired to do a better job or advance. You just want to do the bare minimum so you can get the money.
Right.
But imagine if you're doing something that you're really connected to. Someone, loves writing and you get to write every day. It won't even feel like work.
No, it don't. It doesn't.
And it'll be much easier for you to excel in that particular activity.
Yeah, that's great. You're right about that, because I really love what I do now as opposed to what I used to do. It wasn't like a chore, but it was very stressful. And at first I thought that was my passion and what I wanted to do in life. But, it's always good to know that even if you start one way, you can always find something else to do. We should always be evolving and changing as people. Just because I like to do one thing one day doesn't mean I have to continue to do that, unless that's really what I like to do. So people have to keep that in mind, whether it's with a business or a job. If it changes, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I can really relate to having had a job that, you enjoy but was stressful, or either a job that you enjoy but it's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know that we are meant to work 40 years in stressful or hard scenarios. I have a hard time believing that that's God's will for us.
Yeah.
Even some things that are God's will for us, there may be moments of challenge. I don't think anything is ever smooth sailing, but like constantly being stressed or constantly feel like you have to give more than you have to give.
Yeah.
I don't think that's God's will for us.
No, that to me, that equals like a toil, a very much of a toil, sweat and tears. And we're not called for that. He doesn't call us to toil. He doesn't cause us to do all that. So if you're listening out there and you're toiling on your job, you might want to look for something different. It's always good to change. It's always good to change. Tonya, do you have any last comments that you want to share with the audience about maybe like where to find you again, or if you have any upcoming events coming?
Yes. So I can be found on all social media platforms at Tonya Sloans. That's TonyaSloans. One last comment that I would just like to share is that hustle nowadays is so very important. No matter whether you are a business owner or you are choosing to be employed by someone else, hustle is critically important. The inflation changes on a regular basis, that changes the value of the dollars that we have. And we are just living in a time where everyone wants to get the most for their money.
Yeah.
When we go shopping, we want our dollars to stretch the furthest.
Yeah.
When employees pay you a specific amount, they want the maximum they can get out of the wages that they're paying you. So if you're someone who is kind of lazy, really just want to sort of lay back and chill, chances are you're going to run into some real problems, whether it be an entrepreneur or an employee. You've got to hustle.
Yes.
Even if it's at work, needing to get projects done a little bit quicker than you have in the past because your employer has new productivity standards. Or even as an entrepreneur, I think hustle is even more important. Because,
I'm like, you can't be a lazy entrepreneur.
Yes. Entrepreneurship is hot, especially amongst African American women. We are the fastest growing demographic that is starting businesses. And what that means is that there's a greater likelihood to be more and more of every type of business out there.
Right.
So if you want to survive and be successful as an entrepreneur, you've got to be prepared for the next business that can open up on the heels that does something exactly like what you do or something similar.
Yeah.
So, but if you have your hustle on,
Mm-hmm.
man, the greater the chance of you being successful.
Yeah.
Specifically, because I'm in this hustle season, I'm getting ready to have an event that's called the Power Your Career Forward event. Okay. And it's specifically going to be for those women who have that hustle spirit, who say, you know, I am not maximizing my career potential, and I'm ready to use the skills that I currently have to increase my income and advance the professional position that I have. We're going to have that workshop on Saturday, October 27th, and it's going to be at the Silver Spring Civic Center in Silver Spring, Maryland. Listeners can go to powercareer.eventbrite.com for the tickets. And for all of your listeners, the tickets are going to be 50% off. So the full ticket price is $97. So for your listeners, the ticket would just be 50% off.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's cool. So is there a coupon code for that, or you'll let me know so I can let the listeners know?
Yes, I'll let you know what that coupon code is.
All right, so you guys will have to wait, and you'll have to listen to the whole video so you'll know what the coupon. Hey, those good things come to those who wait. So when coupon code, I'll make sure I put it at the end of the video. So you have to hear it in its entirety, and then you'll get the coupon code to go to this event so you can maximize your capacity and your workflow. You can maximize the capacity in your job or whatever it is that you're doing. You can be the best that you're able to be in that season, in that business, in that employment, in that job, whatever it is that you're doing. You want to be the best. You want your work to speak more for you than you do your behavior, whatever it is. You want to put your best foot forward in everything that you do. So it's awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to share. It's such a great time with you.
Yes, thank you for sharing with the listeners about what it is that you do and also the event. I'm really excited. I hope that they go out and take this opportunity seriously. Just like you said, you have to go out and you have to make those connections, those networking opportunities. And I'm sure just by me knowing who you are, I'm sure it's going to be a great event, packed full of information that will help the listeners succeed in anything they do. So.
Thank you so much for the well wishes.
Thank you. Thank you, Tonya. You have a good night.